Hello, my name is Steve Klimkowitz, and I'm here today to submit my homework assignment on simple and compound interest. What we're looking to do here is looking to buy a new car, but I don't have enough money to buy it outright. I've got $1,500 in the bank, and I want to buy a car that's $9,000, so I'm going to need a loan that's $7,500. In the homework assignment, we have four scenarios: two simple interest, two compound interest, all with different interest rates and years. And what we want to do is figure out what is the best loan and what one is the worst, and those in between for the potential buyer. So first, let's look at the simple interest model that we built, like we discussed in class. So we have the two simple scenarios for scenario 1 and 2. The loan amounts are $7,500 each. The interest rate in scenario 1 is 7%. The duration is 4%. So as you remember from class, the simple scenarios, you're just going to take the amount times the rate times the years. That's going to tell you how much interest you're going to have to pay. So if you look here, you have 7,500 times 7% times 4. That gives you $2,100 for scenario 2. You have 7,500 times 6% times 5%. As you see there, that's going to give you 2,250. Also, as we discussed in class, you can look at this on a year-by-year basis and then sum them up in order to kind of give you a better idea as to how much you're paying. So as simple interest, we remember you're not paying interest on interest. So with that, you're going to pay the same amount each year based on the original principal of 7,500. So for this, you're going to pay 525 for year 1, 2, 3, and 4, totaling $2,100. As you can see there, for about a quarter of the pie. And same thing down here. You're going to on 6%, it's $450 a year. On the 7,500 bucks, you're going to pay $450 a year for 5 years, totaling $2,250. In looking at the compound interest model, it looks very similar, but the biggest difference is the formula here. As you'll see, you're going to have the principal times 1 plus the interest rate at 7% raised to the number of years, which will be 3 in this case. And then you're going to take that whole thing and back out the initial loan amount, which is going to leave you for scenario 3 interest payments of $687. When you do the same thing for scenario 4, it's actually, although the interest rate is quite a bit lower at 5% versus 7, because it's 7 years, you end up paying a lot more, almost double, $3,053. And then when you look at it by year basis, it really kind of breaks out how you are paying interest on the interest. You remember back in the simple interest, we paid the same amount of interest every year. Whereas in the compound interest, you'll see in year 1, we pay 525, which is driven by just the 7,500 bucks. When you move to year 2, you're paying the interest on the 7,500 bucks plus the 525 you paid last year. When you look at year 3, even more. You're paying on the 750, 525 plus the 516, 175. So as you can see, in a compound interest environment, they're going to keep going up each and every year, and you see that again here from 375 to 393 to 413. So in summary, when you look at it, scenario 3, even though it is compound interest, was the best because you're only paying $687 in interest, whereas with scenario 1 is the second best. It's simple interest. You're only going to pay $2,100 in interest, and then $2,250 for scenario 2, and $3,053 for scenario 3. So what this is all telling me is when you look, even though the interest rate is the lowest in scenario 5, because it takes the longest to pay it back, you end up paying the most. Whereas in scenario 3, it's tied for the highest interest rate, but because you're paying it back in just 3 years, and even though it's compounding, you're still going to only pay back $1,687. So for me, what that tells me is if I'm taking out a loan, try to pay it back as quickly as possible, and you'll pay the least amount of interest. So I hope that answers the question we're looking for here, and thanks so much.